Hello everyone, my name is Jeff Neville and welcome to Selective Imagery. Welcome to a few weeks at HBSP, Huntington Beach State Park. We start off with a few videos showing the interaction between the Spoonbills and the Gators. They're both feeding on shrimp. You can see this gator's kind of rolling around and shaking its head, eating some small shrimp. Eventually, it's going to swim over here, closer to me actually, and then head towards where there are some spoonbills. Now these shrimp are pretty much trapped in here because the tide is going out. There's not a lot of water in here. The gators really aren't swimming per se. For the most part, they're crawling through the water in most areas. There might be a few spots where they could actually move their tail around and swim a little bit. Now, the time frame between these initial videos and still images that you're going to see are around the middle of August. Later in the show, we'll be out into the August 20th to 24th time frame. The spoonbills showed up very late in the season, possibly forced here from the hurricane that was in Florida and moved along the East Coast the week before. But spoonbills really haven't been around. Here we are. I'm filming this doing this on the 27th of August, and there really haven't been much of any spoonbills now for 3 or 4 days at least. So I don't get it. One, they showed up extremely late. Previous years, they've actually shown up and stayed. A few of them were silly enough to stay until the end of December. Now in this video clip, keep an eye on the ibis on the right-hand part of the screen. Eventually, it's going to go over and actually tug on the tail of the alligator. Right there. It's going to do it again. Talk about a brave and or stupid bird. I don't know how you want to look at that one, but very interesting behavior. Not anything that I thought I was going to see. Here it looks like there's almost a standoff between the gator sitting there looking near this snowy egret. The Snowy's very well aware of the gator's position. And believe me, I think if the gator wanted to really get this bird right now, it probably could. Eventually the bird is going to smarten up and say, we've been looking at each other a little too long here. It's time for me to move along. But there's plenty of small shrimp here on the marsh side, and everybody's taking advantage of it. You can see, sometimes you see something shooting out from the water, or it looks like a little streak. That's actually the shrimp jumping out of the water. Spoonbills are just beautiful to look at, though. And they just grab the shrimp and you'll see some other videos where you see it more prominent, but they just grab the shrimp with the front of their bills, and then they just kind of like flick their head back and try to shoot that shrimp all the way down their throat. Most of the time they do it. Sometimes it may bounce out of their mouth or doesn't quite make it, but it's not like they're worried about it. They have plenty of food in there to eat. So here we got the spoonbills, like really, really close to these alligators. It's just amazing. I mean, they're literally probably, I don't know, 3 feet away, 2-3 feet away. But, you know, everybody's getting enough shrimp, so obviously shrimp don't fight back. So if the gator's getting a food source, then that's fine. Here you can see the one really crawling. He's not swimming, crawling in front of this other spoonbill. Spoonbill's definitely aware of the gator being right there near it and always keeping an eye, and seems to be a little bit uncomfortable trying to actually get any food for itself right now because it's focusing on that gator. So here we're going to show a bunch of still images. Yeah, this is, you can see how close the gator is to the spoonie in this shot. And then you got 3 of them together here in a group. Here's one that's feeding right next to a tricolored heron. And one coming into land. Love it when they're landing. You try to hang in there long enough when you see these spoonbills to catch them either coming in for landings or taking off and trying to get them in flight. But, you know, sometimes, I mean, they outlast you. You know, you might be there for 4 or 5 hours and they still haven't flown away yet. This one has a huge scar. You can see it going up near the eye, and everybody's trying to figure out how it got that scar. Yeah, you can't get much closer. Like I said, that ibis that tugged on the tail of the gator earlier in the video, I was just shaking my head. When I saw the video when I got home, I'm yelling at the screen, "Are you crazy?" Here you got 2 of them now near that spoonbill. Now here's where you're going to see there's 2 or 3 of them here along this bank, and you're going to see a lot of flipping of the shrimp into the mouth. They had no shortage of food, but these shrimp are very small that they're getting. And you can see how they basically just like yank their head back to try to get the shrimp to go to the back of their throat. And the gators are still hanging around. Sometimes you can see, here's one, the gator's chewing on some shrimp right now. I saw a few jump in the air moments ago around its head, so. You got a good little group of them here. Now we have a few stills here that we're going to show. Yeah, this is where they're all lined up. It's funny, you got that little strip of water. And here's an ibis that was poking through the oyster beds and found a fiddler crab. And no pun intended, or I should say pun intended, it was fiddling around with this fiddler crab for quite a while. Multiple images here, and it just, I don't know why it was having difficulty just, flipping it back down its throat like everything else is, having no problem. Here the spoonbills having a little fun, spitting out some water. They do like to play around once in a while when you watch them. They have some interesting behavior. And in here, I like this little circular arc here of the water with the different birds in there feeding. Now you're going to see some snowy egret shots. Here's one, okay, the hair's raising up around the head. So it's in attack mode. It's going to cause trouble. So here it is chasing another snowy, getting it to go into flight and get out of the neighborhood. And then here it's going to proceed to take off to find somebody else that it could cause trouble with. Yeah, as soon as that hair starts sticking up out of its head, you know that it's thinking about doing something. So here it's like looking right at me, and I'm like, uh-oh. Is this sucker gonna fly at me? And then the next thing you know, it's starting to fly. And I'm laughing as I'm taking these pictures, of course, saying, you're not really gonna fly at me, are you? But, I was starting to wonder at one point in time, but eventually it veered off and it went in a different direction. And here's a great egret that's just like preening itself and relaxing on one of the posts. And here's a snowy who doesn't have an attitude. Notice that the hair is not raised up on the head. It's just flying to a different location. And another spoonbill shot here with the spoonie hanging out with a tricolored heron. And then here you have a gray egret that has a shrimp in its bill when you look at the very end of it. And then it decides it's gonna flick it up into its mouth. You could see it there right at the beginning of the beak. And then there's another shot coming up of a different shrimp that it's also flipping down its throat. So they're eating them as well. And then when there aren't any birds for a second or two, once in a while I'll pop a picture of a flower that I like. They got some beautiful flowers that grow along the rocks, along the banks, eventually during the summertime. And then we have some juvenile yellow-crowned night herons that have been along the bank as well. And they're not, and then they, for whatever reason, they don't have any fear of people at all. I mean, you could get within, 5 or 6 feet from them and they don't even move. And there were some juvenile ibises that were poking around, looking for food. And unfortunately, we get to where we come into I believe our 5th year in the fish kill environment. So the fish kill occurred during this window of time that I was shooting here at the park, and not as substantial as what we've had before by any means. There were a lot of weakened fish and weakened shrimp near the top of the water. The birds took great advantage of this, which is why we had a lot of birds. Here you can see a still image of these fish gasping for air, and you're going to see a follow-up video here. These are the videos I hate to take. This is not the first time I've taken video of fish gasping for air at the surface of the water. And unfortunately for these fellas, that probably within an hour or so, they won't be alive anymore. And this is like the last stages of life for them before they pass on due to no oxygen in the water. And we all know the spiel. I've talked about this 100 times on my show of the management of the pond area, and this is all preventable. could be prevented, but it's not. So it is what it is. But there's, from a photo, being selfish from a photography point of view, you see these fish gasping for air. Well, the alligators have been starving. They don't have any food, so now the food is near the top of the water. There was even a feather here that flew off a bird and landed in front of the little mound. And in a few minutes, a gator had come up and swallowed that feather and eventually spit it out, realizing it wasn't food. And here a tricolor is near the bank, and there's a couple dead fish laying there on the edge of the water. But with, the shrimp near the surface and the fish being either floating, dead and floating, or near death, like I said, these gators were taking off and trying to find some food. And of course, some birds get kind of unnerved when the gators are on a warpath here. So some of them are in the reeds, like this great blue heron. Eventually, it did find something near the shore to eat and took it out. But there were a lot of birds that chose to stay on the rocks or along the embankments and not travel too close to the edge of the water. There were at one time, I think, over 15 gators that I counted that were swimming around at one point in time. I like this shot. I don't know how that reed is holding that bird up. They obviously don't weigh that much. They look like they should, but they don't. And here's a few dead fish in front of this great egret as well. But see how they're huddling near the grasses. Just trying to be safe. And then, one will sneak out and get a fish. This was one of those fish that had died, and this egret grabbed it and went into the reeds to eat it. Here's one that plucked one out of the water and is flying off with it. And you'll see another one here as I'm shooting through the reeds. I like this shot. I was able to keep the bird in focus even though I had all those reeds in front of me. And there are other birds that they don't really have too much fear of whether the gators are around or not. Surprisingly, anything that is always pretty much in flight. Here's a royal tern hitting the water hard and getting a fish. Another image of it flying away with it. It's a good sized fish for a tern. They're not usually getting fish that are that big. This is the seagulls, of course, are around as well. And this one has a shrimp in its mouth. Came up with a shrimp, and then in the upcoming image, another one of the same species of gull. Got something to eat as well. But yeah, there was a lot of activity, a lot of birds flying around. Here's a gull. Hit the water, and its head is still down, and it's got a shrimp in its mouth. Here it is flying away with it. Not every bird flying has a fish in its mouth, but eventually they did. Either fish or a shrimp. A royal tern. At least that's what I believe it is. Yeah, it loses some of the black around the head when it's in the winter coloration. And here's one with a fish, flying off with a fish. And you have an osprey that came down and got one as well. And you're going to see a lot of osprey shots coming up shortly with them getting fish. Here's a tern, a small one, with a very small, looks like a fish from what I could tell. And here's competition. You know, the tern has the fish, the gull wants the fish. So it was chasing it for quite a while. Whereas the ospreys, you know, are always on the lookout for the eagles, who like to steal the fish when they get a fish. Did not see any of that on this particular day. The images that you're seeing are over the course of all the still images and the videos are really over the course of probably at least 5 or 6 visits to the park. I really like this one. I like the flowers, the color in the background. I really enjoyed that shot. And here's some of those flowers close up. You're going to see some nice tern shots here with fish. Yeah, not shrimp, fish. Really, really, really nice color. Really love how these shots came out. Here's one up in the sky. Could be that same one with the fish. And then, you know, we get a few more osprey shots here. Obviously, I think it got distracted by those of us on the sidewalk taking images because it looks like it's looking right at us. Got distracted. Did not get any food. But that was not going to last long. It'll just fly along the water, go up in the sky, do a U-turn, come back down, and try to get a fish. And if it misses, it still has to shake all the water off. So I love the movement when you get it shaking off the water. Another tern looking for some more food. Even though you can't see the head, I like the pose. I like the shot with the claws sticking out with the osprey coming down. And eventually, there you go. There's the fish. You got a gator in the foreground. Yeah, so everything was eating good for a day. Went to take pictures just the other day and just the opposite situation. Great blue heron in flight here. I love it with the flowers. Like I said, I love it when the flowers are in bloom in the background. And this one's not looking for food. This one's looking to hang out with some friends. Finally, it finds them. Here's an osprey showing off a fresh catch. Here's one where the osprey in the background has a fish and the one in the foreground is catching a fish. Never got one like that before. And here it is lifting it out of the water. That was real unusual. One in the foreground, one in the background. Yeah, there was, in the last week we started seeing ospreys again, so that's, I don't know for how long. I like this shot again with the flowers in the background. Tern has a shrimp in its mouth, I believe, in this shot. And then there are some birds that could care less. They were just They were away from really the pond. They were in an area where there was just a little bit of water, and they had all these rocks, and they were just sitting. They were sitting on the rocks. Just this juvenile yellow-crowned night heron. Now, eventually, the big guns show up, and this is what I mean by the big guns. While the gators may rule the roost in the water, the eagles rule the airways. And here's this one coming down. The talons out. Wonderful color in the water. It hits but comes away empty-handed, which is highly unusual for an eagle, so it goes airborne again. And then it's going to come back down and try another time and see how it does. Here we go with the claws out again, ready to hit. And it hits, and you can see the fish in the claws as it flies off. Success. Now, here we got a gator with a GPS mounted on it. It almost looks like a camcorder. Looks like it could be filming me. And it's just swimming around in the water. And this leads us to what's going to be near the end of the videos here, where we're going to show a gator getting captured to have a GPS put on it. So here is a group of people. You have the naturalist, the ranger in the foreground, and you have a bunch of trucks behind him. And here's a gator swimming with a GPS on him. And it's from the Department of Natural Resources, working with, aided with some help from the state park personnel. And it's got the lasso there, and it has a fishing pole in the water with some food on it to try to draw the alligator in close to the bank. And this is quite a, did not get it this particular time. Now this is handheld with the 600 with the 2.3 crop, and I got people around me. They moved us, they had us move away. They didn't want us too close to what was going on, and so we're shooting this from a outpost basically, and fairly good distance away, and I'm just trying to get it with the 2.3 times crop, and just seeing if I could get anything. There's the head of the gator there, and okay, it's lowering the noose, and then you're going to see that it does actually successfully grab it with the noose this time. It's sliding it down on the body, tightening it up, and now you're going to see a lot of tail action going on, splash in the water. But they've got him or her, and they're gonna tag this alligator. I did ask the question. I says, why are your tags so big? I mean, it's like, would you find these in a warehouse somewhere? They've been sitting around for 20 years or what? I says, they tag sharks. Obviously, the units that go on sharks are nowhere near the size of what they're putting on these alligators. But they don't. Similar thing, they tag them. They got software. They'll track them, see where they basically just want to see where they're going. Are they spending a lot of time in the marsh? Or are they spending more time in the pond? Or what are their habits? I mean, I'd like to think that since these gators have been in this park for decades and decades and decades and decades, that they're very well aware where these gators go. I think most photographers are very well aware where they go, but whatever. They're tagging as many as they can. But this process, I believe, was probably at least an hour. It felt that long anyway, to just do one, and they haven't had a lot of success due to changing weather and storms, and the gators not cooperating and getting close enough, and because they have to kind of draw them to shore, and then they pull them up with a rope. And then you'll see the process, where they basically somebody will crouch down and basically sit on the gator, and they'll throw a towel over its, cover its eyes first, and then they'll sit and hold the gator down, and then somebody will tape the mouth shut, and then they'll proceed to get the GPS ready, and you're going to see all that in this footage as we move along. So here they're slowly trying to pull the gator up the embankment, and they don't yank it too hard. I mean, they just do it steady, and it kind of just eventually comes along. And of course, here it is coming out with its mouth wide open, and is not enjoying the moment. Let's put it that way. So I had somebody walk by my field of view of my camera while I was filming, and now we get the towel treatment. I'm surprised that steel lanyard there doesn't cut through the flesh. But anyway, so I cover up the eyes, and then this DNR employee is going to get right on top of the gator and pin it down so it can't move. And you'll see this girl approaching with the hat on, and she's going to pull out the roll of tape, and they're going to tape the mouth shut. Here it looks like she's done doing the taping. Now here's where they're getting the GPS unit out of the case and getting that ready to get attached to the back of the head of the gator. There's the unit. Now I don't know if all the units are the same size, or they have different size units depending on the size of the gator. Didn't really get a chance to ask that question. Like I said, I just find it interesting that they just don't put in a tag like they would on a shark, because they could get the gator close enough to shore to spear it with one of those type of devices and not even have to drag it up. Here's one coming towards me with the GPS on it, and then here they're proceeding to getting ready to release this gator, and you'll see this guy fooling around with the tape around the mouth for a little bit, and they're going to try to get things situated where they can both get up and get away from this gator, and then release it, and then have it go back in the water again. But I think when I asked, I mean, they'd be lucky if they could tag 3 gators probably in a day if they're lucky, and they haven't had a lot of luck. So I've only seen the one gator you saw in the video with the GPS, which is a larger gator than the one that they're tagging right now. So she's getting prepared to push off and get away from the gator, and he's going to pull the towel off the eyes, and then I guess they got something in its mouth. They're going to release it by pulling on the cord here, and looked like something popped out of its mouth, and it's kind of slides backwards for a while, and then eventually it starts to turn as it is here and goes back in the water. So I hope you enjoyed this video. It was a lot of fun putting it together. Unfortunately, we had another fish kill event. Nothing that's going to make the paper, which it rarely does. And like I said, was not a lot of in the water to die to begin with. So it is what it is, and nothing we could do about it. So we just capture it and record it and share it. So as I always say, enjoy life, capture some of it, guys. Get out, guys and gals, get out there and get some pictures with whatever kind of gear you own, and whether it's film cameras, digital cameras, what have you, and just enjoy it and capture some memories, because that's what this is all about. Take care. Until next time, have a good one.